welcome back to the #1 naturopathic medicine show in the world, or at least in our time slot. I'm your host, Amir Mofidi. With me, as always, is the undisputed champ of naturopathic medicine, Dr. Alice. This is Coffee with Alice. Doc, how are you? Cheers.
Cheers.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's been 7 weeks since we've been locked down. How do you feel about that? Take your time on that one.
I'm great.
You're great. So the topic of today's episode is called Get Out of Your Rut, Fix Your Gut, Part 1, meaning there's going to be a Part 2 to this series. In the first part, we'll dive into the problem with gut issues, and in Part 2, we'll explore effective solutions. And I'm also going to play some unscripted word association with the doc at the end, which will be really fun. You'll enjoy that. Now, Doc, when we say gut, what are we talking about? What exactly are we talking about?
So this is the digestive system. We are a glorified worm. So we're just a tube. So this starts in the mouth, ends in the anus.
So we're a we're a glorified worm.
Yeah, we're a glorified worm.
So you're talking about the digestive system.
Yeah.
So what's structure? You're talking about the actual throat.
So it's the mouth, actually. So mouth, esophagus, down to the stomach, and the intestines, and of course the rectum. All the
Okay.
way out.
So when someone says gut issues, it could really be talking about the entire structure there.
Yeah, you should be considering the entire structure.
That's interesting. So it can be throat issues. It could be rectal issues that would also be factored into it, or considered gut issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can. It can contribute.
It can
but
contribute.
definitely.
Okay. So why is the gut so critical to immune health?
So and this is depending on the literature that you look at, but I see a range of between 70 to 90% of your immune system actually resides in your gut. So if you disturb the immune system in that sense, and this could be from pharmaceuticals, this could be from refined sugars and carbs, this could be from your diet.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. So
Yeah.
so what makes up that 70 to 90%?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what of the, is it the lining? Is it what is making up that number?
Yeah, it's in the lining, but it's also it's on the surface of the line, but it's also the inside of the wall itself too. So there is, of course, the gult and the malt. So these are all areas like the Peyer's patches as well. That's where a lot of your immune cells reside. And the reason why that's there is because your gut is actually a direct contact to the outside world, meaning that whatever you eat is actually going into your body, and your immune system has to identify what is friend and foe. So your food is not sterile, by the way. So your vegetables, no matter how much you wash it, no matter how much you try to disinfect it with soap, hopefully not with bleach, but there are bugs.
You bleach your broccoli?
I would hope not.
Don't bleach your broccoli.
Please don't. Do not do that. But that will, of course, have potentially pathogens there. Or, again, there are good bacteria in those foods as well. But there's lots and lots of different kind of bugs, bacteria, virus, fungus, all of those things that will reside in the food. And, of course, you take it in you. Your body has to determine whether or not it is friend or foe.
Now, when you say 70-90% of your immune system resides in the gut, and with all this stuff happening, I said 7 weeks since we've been locked down, there's a specific reason that we're locked down. Why aren't more people talking about this?
Because people are just being a bit reductionist about this. They're focusing on one particular virus that is causing some issues. Although there is debate, actually, that there's different strains of it, actually, right now. But somehow, some way in the past few months, the whole research behind the microbiome and our gut microbiome and the bacterial diversity, not just bacteria, but even viruses as well, just went out the window. Like, people just forget about it, and they're just kind of feverishly disinfecting everything. And unfortunately, if you do that, we've already seen this in the past few decades as being a problem. If you disinfect everything, then you have antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that's a huge problem in the hospital systems right now. And unfortunately, this is something that I am concerned about, that we're disinfecting everything a little bit too much, washing our hands, and just OCD and all that fun stuff, that it's basically disturbing our microbiome.
Okay.
Especially what kind of soap you're using as well.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of disinfectant soaps contain chemicals that have been deemed very dangerous to your to the diversity of your microbiome. So a lot of the antibacterial soaps, yeah, that's something to be concerned about.
Okay. Now Dr. Alice told me that this subject could take several episodes. I'm going to move a little quickly on this, but if you want, we can add a part 3, a part 4, a part 7 to this series. We can be like the Rocky series, or Police Academy, just have 21 different shows. Now the gut is also kind of called the second brain.
Yes.
Why is it called that? Because like I have a gut feeling. Like why is it called that?
So your gut also generates probably a majority of your neurotransmitters. So again,
Neurotransmitters being?
So that could be serotonin, that could be melatonin actually can also be generated there. There is this interesting kind of connection, by the way, where they have found a link between bad bacteria in the gut basically migrating into the brain and initiating Parkinson's disease. That was something that was very recently discovered. But dopamine also, a lot of neurotransmitters are actually made in the gut, and the bacteria in the gut actually helps with that, by the way.
No, this is blowing my mind, because you say 79% of the immune system. You say it makes the majority or a great deal of your neurotransmitters. That's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a huge deal on both of those fronts, and people are kind of running to get toilet paper. Now, it's just we'll talk about solutions in part 2, but it just seems like one of the key cornerstones of this whole immune system and mental health is a big issue right now. It's kind of all coming back to the centerpiece, your gut. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
Now another interesting place where things get processed in the gut, in fact, is that your thyroid hormone actually gets converted from T4 into the active form of T3 in the gut as well. So this is why when patients actually go on antibiotic therapy, sometimes what happens is that you will see patients, their first kind of complaint is fatigue. They're not getting that active thyroid hormone, that conversion, because when you take antibiotics, wipes out all the good and bad bacteria in the gut, and you don't have that conversion. Now, the gut bacteria can also actually help generate certain vitamins as well. So vitamin K is actually generated in the gut if you have the right gut bacteria in there. So if you wipe everything out with a bunch of antibiotics or being insanely sterile, then you're going to have some problems for basically the organism.
So if someone can't convert thyroid hormone, would that lead to
that would lead to fatigue? That would lead to weight gain.
Weight gain, right? That's what I was thinking.
Depression. Your hair will actually, again, hypothyroidism is where things just don't grow as, or just don't work. The reason why is because your thyroid hormone is your metabolic hormone. So your hair will fall out, you'll see, of course, things like your eyebrow hair will start thinning at the very lateral edges, but yeah, I mean, for the first month or so, you definitely see like overall fatigue as the complaint for a patient who has been on antibiotic therapy.
Yeah, now if you're in my family and you have a unibrow, that eyebrow thinning is probably good for you. But that's a very small percentage of the population. That unibrow got ripped for that quite a bit when I was growing up. Now, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but let's go into it. What specific things do we do, eat, drink that cause havoc in the gut? So let's just start. Are there specific foods? You mentioned sugars and refined carbs.
Refined sugars and carbs.
Refined sugars and
yeah,
carbs.
Refined carbs, by the way, not all carbs.
Refined carbs.
Refined sugars, refined carbs. What will potentially feed the bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, also the pathogenic yeast, like Candida, stuff like that too. So if those things, unfortunately, will feed those organisms, and they will proliferate, and they will crowd out the bad. So, again, my concern in this particular pandemic is that people, when this all started, you go into a store, and what's the first thing that's missing? What do you see that's missing right off the bat? Like, all the shelves are empty in which aisle?
Toilet paper.
Besides that, and people aren't eating that.
Oh, they're eating, Oreos.
All the chips, I went to Whole Foods, even people who are supposed to be very like.
Now some people are eating
health-conscious.
toilet paper. I don't. You know who you are.
Yeah. So, but like the whole chip aisle was completely taken. Like all of the pastas and all the rice, that was all, of course, bought out and taken as well. A lot of the frozen foods, those were all just gone. And of course, you go around into the fresh produce area, and that's all still there. It's quite amazing. Like it's madness actually.
What about everyone's favorite thing in the world? What about alcohol?
That does disturb the gut. Not only does it kind of disturb the microbiome, but it actually causes inflammation to the gut lining itself. So we will see a lot of problems with alcohol and gut problems. Again, a lot of patients actually report reflux after drinking alcohol. So again, it's that irritation to the stomach and the gut in general that will, initiate that reflux.
Are there behaviors like, or at least circumstances like stress?
Yes.
Or sleeping, not enough, falling asleep too late. Are there behaviors like that affect the gut?
So your gut is controlled by your nervous system.
Okay.
So if you are stressed, then you will affect the ability of your digestive tract to work well at all. So it's that's a deeper kind of conversation around the autonomic nervous system and all that.
Okay. What about pharmaceuticals?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. So the most common thing right now, I would imagine that a lot of people are stressed. And whenever you're stressed, you're going to have reflux, potentially. So,
Right.
I have experienced that myself, during really stressful and busy parts of my practice. So one of the most dangerous things that you can actually do is long-term acid blocking medications. So those are terrible. Now, they're not meant to be used long term. You're supposed to kind of identify the root cause of reflux and treat that instead of just kind of constantly feeding a person a proton pump inhibitor or any sort of acid blockers. So
like would Tums fall into that category?
no, that's not necessarily it. Again, we're looking more like Prilosec and of course back like things like ranitidine and stuff like that.
Okay.
So. But if you block the production of acid in the stomach, then number one, you actually can't break down your proteins well. So you're not going to be able to extract the nutrients from the food as well. But the other problem is that you can't kill off all the pathogenic bacteria. So what you'll tend to see is that patients will have, dysbiosis, which is the bad balance of bad bacteria in the gut versus the good. And they're going to have some issues further down the line. The other thing too is that certain nutrients actually require acid in order to activate it or to absorb it. So B12 is actually one of the most common depletions of that because again you don't have acid available, you're not going to be able to really absorb it.
Now you mentioned some of the symptoms that would manifest when someone's thyroid goes kaput. What are the general symptoms that someone would experience when their gut is starting to become faulty?
So this is something I ask all my patients initially, and of course on their retests. Is there any cramping? Is there bloating? Is there burping? Is there farting?
Yeah, you said it.
Farting.
We're 3 years old, folks. This is just so you know. We didn't get past the 5th grade.
So, is there diarrhea?
Okay.
I go into, excruciating detail of what your stool looks like. Yes, I know, it's gross. I have a lot of patients who are very shocked whenever they initially
I don't think it's gross. I think it looks great on a Tinder profile.
Yeah, no, gosh. So the Bristol stool chart is something that I typically show a patient so that they don't have to really be uncomfortable. They can point to a photo, what it looks like.
Like a lineup.
Yeah, we check for all, again, whenever you eat, you're supposed to not have any issues. Eat, things are okay, you don't have excessive burping, you don't have excessive flatulence, any of those things. And your stool's supposed to be nice and well formed, and you're supposed to have one at least once a day, up to 3. Now, if it kind of strays outside of that, then it is a problem. So you have to start doing some deep digging, and that could be from changing your habits, or it can, and sometimes it's that easy. So I had a patient who recently told us that he had lifelong gas. Now, I did run a food sensitivity panel on him, and it did show up positive for, of course, dairy, He never eliminated it, and this is like 2 years down the line. But finally, he was ready to do it. We had him eliminate dairy, and lo and behold, his gas went away. So
Just like that.
Yeah, it could be that easy. So.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here. We're gonna do a little quick word association with the doc, which is gonna be really exciting. She has no idea what I'm gonna say. She just knows that we're talking about the gut today, but she doesn't know anything that's coming up. So let's see if we can throw off her game. I say something, you say the first word or phrase that comes to your mind, okay? Number 1, fiber.
Good.
Fiber, good. All right, we're going now. Number 2, stress.
Bad.
Hey, we're on a roll here. We're on a roll here. Number 3, coronavirus. Yeah, we're squirming a little bit.
I can't cuss on this.
No, well, not yet. Once we go viral, no pun intended, we can start to swear and get a Howard Stern type following.
Crap.
Crap? Oh, okay, that's an interesting one. We'll put a pin in. Number 4, fake news.
CNN?
Sorry,
that's not a word. That's letters. That's letters.
That's fine. So before we get completely banned from all of our social media outlets, we're gonna wrap it up here. Join us next week for where we investigate the gut health a little bit further. Unless the news cycle completely changes, then we'll have to do some breaking news. But tune into Coffee with Alice every Saturday at 10, where we give you the straight truth on all things health and medicine. I'm Amir Rafi. With me, Dr. Alice. Thank you. See you next time.